it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Steve Isberg to share with us what you need to be doing to be compliant with CECL. Take it away, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Yassine, and thank you, Alyssa, for getting us going here. It's great to be here. I hope you're safe, warm, and dry wherever you are. This is point of celebration for me. I don't know if you're aware of this, Mike, but this is the beginning of my 25th year of associating with CRF as a fellow. And I can't believe it's been 25 years, but it has. 1998. So this is you know, this is a landmark, a benchmark for me. So I'm glad to be here today.
Well,
so we're going to
congratulations.
talk. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We're going to talk about CECL. So what are our intentions for today? Well, our first intention is to provide you with a background on the motivation and the original intent of the CECL standard, which actually goes back now to 2016, 2013 actually was the initial conversation. We're going to provide you with some knowledge about when it needs to be implemented and by whom. Quick answer to that, now and everybody. Enable you to understand how the standard CECL, the accounting rule, affects your calculation of your bad debt reserves. And this is where it's going to hit home for you. It's going to change the way you calculate your bad debt reserves and then report that bad debt reserve. But don't be intimidated. It is not necessarily going to have to be rocket science. And one of the takeaways that you should have after this session is the understanding that this is not going to be a major significant statistical overhaul that we have to do. This can be very simple as long as it's reasonable. And that's the important thing to think about. And then we'll provide you with a practical example of a method that you could use to make a CECL adjustment yourself, and talk a little bit about what some of the data says about how you might come up with measures that would help you in this process. So who cares about CECL? Well, CECL is now effective as a FASB GAAP accounting standard. It was codified in the ASU of 2016, written out in 2016, initially to become effective in 2019. We had some COVID deferrals, but it is now effective as a financial standard, a financial accounting standard. And public companies with fiscal years beginning after 15th of December 2022 are required to implement it right now. The standard also applies to private and small companies. The COVID extensions that were originally granted are being phased out. So by the end of the year, it's pretty much going to be a standard for everyone. If you are publicly traded, you need to use the CECL method now. If you're privately traded and you produce GAAP compliant financial statements, you're also going to need to use CECL. So CECL is part of the financial standard environment now. It's part of GAAP. And if you're producing those financial statements, you'll have to use CECL. So it's going to be relevant to you as a credit manager, both internally, and it's also going to be relevant to any of your customers who are reporting a bad debt reserve on their own. So pay attention to what you're doing internally when it comes to establishing your own bad debt reserve. Pay attention to what your customers are saying about their bad debts as well, because they're going to have to be compliant with CECL as well. So what's the background? This goes back to the financial crisis of 2008. And the lesson learned in 2008 was outside investors were really left to their own means when it came to measuring anticipated credit losses. And this was a big problem, as you know, in the financial industry, not as much of a problem in B2B credit. As a matter of fact, it wasn't really a problem at all in B2B credit, as we're going to see. So in response to that, as every good government does, they created a financial crisis advisory group, FCAG, and the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, and the IASB, the International Accounting Standards Board, created this with the intention of improving the financial reporting in regard to the roots causes of the financial crisis. They concluded that the existing standards unduly delay the recognition of credit losses. And their recommendation was that we create models to anticipate credit losses and adjust asset values at earlier points in time. So basically, the financial industry was using backward backward-looking methods in 2008. As you know, the debt situation blew up, the banking system collapsed, primarily due to the fact that most banking organizations had implicitly extended credit to third-party counterparties in transactions where they were totally unaware of the underlying credit risk inherent in these, what turned out to be derivative transactions.